welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm so excited to share with you the books I've read throughout the month of July. We are now in August. I cannot believe it, more so the fact I can't believe that the weather is so awful. It doesn't feel like August, it feels like I've been in a coma and woken up and it's October time. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Hello, if you're new around here, my name is Caroline. I've given myself a goal this year, the year 2023, to read 50 books, and we have been doing okay. We've been getting there and plodding along. The month of June, I didn't do a book review because I didn't read any books in the month of June. I was reading books, but I didn't finish any books in the month of June, which is absolutely appalling. And so the month of July, I've been trying to claw myself back to get into that 50 book goal, because otherwise I'm not going to make it. Otherwise, you know, the last couple of weeks of December I'm going to just be power reading, you know, the Gruffalo on repeat. Although to be fair, if I do include the books I've read for my children, I've definitely gone over the 50 mark, but we're not including those. So this month, the month of July, got my Goodreads app up to remind me because I will forget. We have not done too badly. We have read, oh no, so far we have read the month of July, 1, 2, 3. We read 5 books. We read 5 books. Saying that, 2 of the books I started in June and finished them in July. And the reason I went is because my Goodreads 2023 reading challenge did say at the beginning of the year, read 1 book every week and you will meet your goal, no problems. But I've gone into August, it says you need to read 1.5 books per week to meet your goal. That's scary. That means I haven't met my goal. So currently I have read 23 books out of 50. So that's not too bad. I've nearly finished-ish. I'm listening to an audiobook at the minute, which I think I've got a few, maybe 6 more hours left. So that will get to 24. And then the book I'm reading currently, which I'll speak about in a second, I need to finish that sooner rather than later. So it gets 25, at least I'm halfway there then. The book I'm reading is again, before I tell you the books I have read throughout the month of July, I decided that once I finished a book on my Kindle in July, that I was not going to read any more Kindle books until I have started making a dent in my paperback or hardback books, because I have so many hard copies of books they're just on a shelf, not being looked at, not being read, and I look at them every so often. I go, I wish I had read this one, or I really want to read this book, and I'm just not doing it because I'm more often than not reaching for my Kindle because it's just so convenient. So I made a pact with myself that I wasn't allowed to read another Kindle book, although I'm desperate to read so many books on my Kindle. I'm not allowed to read any books on my Kindle until I've read at least 3 hard copy books, because like I say, I'm not someone who really rereads books. As soon as I've read a book, I would generally just donate it. So I just want to start clearing out some of these books. Obviously, if a book really resonates with me, more so non-fiction than fiction, I will keep it because I like to have the books I enjoy. But more often than not, fiction books I tend to get out because I'm not going to reread a fiction book. I don't think that, I mean, there's been some amazing books I've read this year. But even though I've read some amazing books, I don't think I would reread them. I don't know what it is. I can't really reread books. Can you reread books? Reread books? Anyway, let us go into the books we have read. Small disclaimer. The books I have read, 4 of the 5 are non-fiction. I need to start switching that up a little bit. I've really noticed I've been drawn a lot more to the parenting, self-help, autobiography genres, and I do love me a thriller and I love fiction books, but I think, yeah, I've been absorbing a lot of other like non-fiction books, which after a while can drain on you a little bit because you feel like you've taken in so much information that you can't absorb anymore. But anyway, the first book I listened to finish in July was a book which I highly recommend. I gave it 5 stars. It's called Think Like a Monk, Train Your Mind for Peace and Purpose Every Day by the author Jay Shetty. I've seen this book bouncing around quite a lot. And I would never really like the idea of it. I don't know, I think it's just whenever I think of monk, I feel like you just envision these men in their like itchy robes with a little bald patch to the back of the head, and it just never was something that appeals to me, to be honest. It wasn't something that I was just like, oh, I'm not too sure on it. But the reason why I decided to listen to it in the end, well, first of all, because it was free. I used the app BorrowBox, which links to your library, so you have free books you can listen to or read. That's already a winning factor in my eyes. But some of the books on the BorrowBox app have like a year-long waiting list, which is insane. Don't understand, because it's an online thing. I've said this 1,000 times, I just don't get it. But this book was available to listen to straight away, so I thought, okay, that's a good thing. And then I think I read the blurb of it and was like, actually, this could be quite useful. So it's like, when you think like a monk, you'll understand how to overcome negativity, how to stop overthinking, why comparison kills love, how to use your fear, why you can't find happiness by looking for it, how to learn from everyone you meet, why you are not your thoughts, how you find your purpose, why kindness is crucial to success, and much more. Which obviously sounds great. Of all the books I've listened to about self-help and mindfulness, I always take out small little things. I don't absorb the entire book. Obviously, I listen to it and I listen to the entire book, but always little bits I find will resonate with me. And this book here, I've said this, other books I've listened to as well, I've said the same thing. Meditation is so important, and it's something that I'm really sticking to. And I don't know if it's something that, it's hard to know. I feel like, is it the meditation that's helping me, or is it just I'm growing as a person in general, like, life, I don't know. But I feel like since I've been doing meditation, I feel like it's hard to, I'm finding it hard to like, I don't know what it's done, but I feel different since I started meditating. So I do at least 10 minutes a day. I've done a few 15-minute ones. I can't tend to go over the 15-minute mark though, because I feel that's when my body starts to get agitated and I can't sit still for long enough. So although Jay Shetty does say that 10 minutes is what he needs to like get into meditation, and he should meditate for like an hour, that's not something I have the capacity to do, especially having, 2 small kids. Like, I get up early enough to do the meditation and some other things I do in the morning, but there's no way I'm gonna be able to sit still for an hour, because my mind will go, you've got to empty the dishwasher, you've got to get the kids ready for nursery, you've got to do this. So a million other things I've got to do. So there's no way I'm going to be doing an hour-long meditation, but doing 10 minutes I think has been really enlightening for me. Also, the book is, I find like, again, so it's not the traditional monk that you think of again. It's not the robes with the bald head. It's insane how monks live, because it's so different to the Western world. And when he would say what he would do when he was a monk for a while, you just think, blimey, that's dedication. That is insane how dedicated they are to the monk lifestyle. And it's a very good read, it's a very good listen. So I do really recommend it. What else have I taken away from the book? I would say it's just a way to like be a nicer person, I suppose. So like giving out kindness will help you receive kindness. So, donating to charities, just being generally nice to people, having a positive outlook on life, just by changing small things, like just sort of thinking about when negative thoughts come to mind, just trying to find, it sort of gives you the tools on how to sort of shift those thoughts so you're not thinking negatively about everything. And yeah, so it's just, I don't know why I do these reviews, because my explanations of books I think is subpar, but I enjoy doing these reviews. But I do highly recommend, if you're interested in mindfulness, to check out the book, because like I said, I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was really useful, and yeah, I did really like it. The second book I completed in the month of July was Undoctored, the story of a medic who ran out of patients. So it's the author Adam Kay, and he is the one who wrote the book This Is Going to Hurt. This Is Going to Hurt, I would say, is probably, it's a great book. I really recommend it, unless you are expecting a child anytime soon, because he is is it gynecology? I don't know. He works in gynecology, and he works in the labour ward, so he deals a lot with giving birth, and obviously he has a few horror stories to say, which when you've had a kid, you're like, woohoo! But when you are pregnant, you don't need to hear those stories. But it's a really good book. I read it back in, I think it must have been 2020, after I'd had my first baby, yeah. So I read it in 2020, it made me laugh, I thought it was really funny. I listened to his Christmas book at the beginning of this year, I think. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was the best book. I feel like it was sort of like a rushed version of the other book. But this one, it's like I say, Undoctored, the story of a medic who ran out of patients. So at the end of his first book, spoiler alert, although it's not really, doesn't matter, is that he leaves the NHS, he stops working as a doctor. And so this book here, I didn't really know what to expect, but I assumed it would just be more sort of anecdotes of when he was a doctor, or I don't know, I don't really know what I expected. It did have anecdotes of when he was a doctor, but I would say I gave this book 3 stars. For the main part of it, I just thought a lot of it was about his life over him as a doctor, and I'm not that invested in him because he is just an author who wrote a good book once I enjoyed. So he's not like a celebrity who I have any interest in. Yeah, I wasn't too enthralled by this book. The reason I gave it 3 stars, I nearly gave it 2, but the reason I gave it 3 stars, I think, is because he touches on politics in a way that I agree with, and I think as well he sort of mentions like mental health and stuff in there, which I think is important. So I do think it deserves, because he speaks about like uncomfortable subjects. The general sort of crux of it I wasn't too invested in, which is a bit disappointing. But then looking at the other reviews on Goodreads, a lot of people have a similar sort of thought process. It was, you know, a lot of people gave it 3 stars, definitely not as enjoyable as his other books. A few chapters were hilarious, but soon fizzled out and became depressing. So that's the sort of vibe it gave. And like I say, and then there's one thing that bothered me, and obviously I'm no doctor, okay? I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about the medical profession, okay? But one thing that bothered me a bit in the book was he was mentioning not so much Chinese herbal medicine, but what's the other one? Oh, holistical medicine, that's it. So he sort of mentions how holistic medicine is completely hopeless and useless, and he sort of does go a bit hard on how much he despises holistic medicine and sort of really is pushing for how awful holistic medicine is. And yeah, he's just, in my opinion, again, it's just overly negative towards it, and I'm very much for, you know, modern day medicine. Give me all the injections, give me everything that you think will make me better. But at the same time, I wouldn't poo-poo all holistic medicines, because I've had like Reiki before and it worked for me, and I've had like various other like holistic type things happen to me, gone to see, you know, as well as like the Reiki. I think I've had acupuncture a couple of times, and yeah, and so I just because there's no science backing all the holistic methods doesn't mean they don't work. It just means that there's no funding gone into certain areas of expertise. Yeah, I think that's sort of when he was very, very negative about it, and sort of like saying how stupid people are to use holistic medicine. And I just thought, hold on a second, my friend, not everything can be solved by a pill. Yeah, so that irked me somewhat, even though I'm not even that much into holistic medicine. It irked me a bit because I just think not everything has to be science. Some things can be not science, like osteopaths or things like that. I know, you know. Anyway, the next book I read this one. Oh my god, this book! This was on my Kindle. This was the last book I read on my Kindle, as I mentioned before, and this book, oh my god, don't judge a book by a cover, but this one is the opposite of that. Don't judge a book by its cover because it looks good, but it was, oh my god, I struggled with this book. This book is called Mothered by Zoe Stage, but it's with a J, Zoe Stage. I'm not sure how you say that name. Oh, this book, I was so disappointed in this book. It looks so good. It sounds like a really good book. Oh my god, it was a book where I read it because I was so sure something amazing was going to happen. I thought there was going to be a really big twist. I thought there was going to be something that like took my breath away. I thought there would be, unless I missed something, unless when I was reading that book I skipped a few pages, I just felt like it was just a book that was written at like a high tense sort of book where you felt something was going to happen at any moment, and then nothing, in my opinion, happened. What do other people say about it? It has 3 and a bit stars, so I can't be the only one who was a bit let down by it. But so the book description, I'll do a little bit. A claustrophobic psychological thriller about one woman's nightmarish spiral while quarantined with her mother. So it is written during, I just realised I might have some pseudo cream on my face, so I've got a big spot that I'm trying to get rid of. So ignore any white stuff you just say on my face just then. So it is written during the 2020 years when we were all in lockdown, and so a big thing in the book is that the main character's name is Grace. She has these really like vivid nightmares, and so when you're reading the book, at first you don't realise they are nightmares. You think they are what's happening in real life, and you're like, oh my god, that's really intense. But then it's a nightmare, and so after a while you know it's a nightmare, so it doesn't seem as scary because you're like, oh well, I know it's just a nightmare, it's not real. But the character is really like living the nightmare, so for her she's really like feels like the nightmares are true, and then obviously she wakes up and they're not true. And then, I mean, that's pretty much all that happens. About like her twin sister that isn't alive anymore, and her friend has COVID and is in hospital. It's just... So the problem with this book is that I said to Sean, my husband, when I was reading the book, I feel like I'm reading a book waiting for the big thing. So I just was reading it thinking at some point something amazing is going to happen. At some point this incredible is going to happen, and it's going to make me want to pick my jaw up from the bottom of the floor. It's just going to be insane. But that did not happen. It was so disappointing. It was just, it's just nothing. It's a book of like just and I'm just disappointed with it because I was expecting a lot more. I can't really say much more because I don't want to spoil it if you wanted to read it, but pretty much it's a woman who has nightmares. Her mum lives with her. She's a bit suspicious of her mum. Her mum makes accusations towards her. We'll leave it at that. The next book I listened to, this is just a short book, again, that I got from my BorrowBox library app. This book, I've read the full version of this book way back when, and then in this book, in the big full version of the book, it says, come back to this book and read it every few months to refresh yourself. It's another self-help book. But this book here is a smaller version of that. So I thought maybe the smaller version will help refresh my mind, because obviously I haven't reread the big version of the book because the big version of the book is too long for me to reread. So I thought I'd read the small book of it. So it's called The Little Book of Success by Napoleon Hill, and I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. It was refreshing to reread. I think it would be a good book to read if you are starting on your changing your mindset journey. The only issue I have with it, and they do mention this in the book, is because the book was written I think in the 1930s, very male orientated. So it's very much he will, if you want to succeed as a man, you need to, and so that's one issue. And they do say at the beginning of the book that they've kept the male words in there because that is how the book was written, but it's not what they intend now. It's sort of we're just keeping it how it was, but that's not what the book is focusing on. It's not focusing on gender and all that now. So that was something that, I know they say that at the beginning of the book, but you do feel a bit irked by it when it comes on talking about what men should and shouldn't be doing. It's a good book, but yeah, like I said, because I've read it before, the longer version before, it was a bit more of a refresh for me. A bit like the original, the book, The Secret. It's a bit like the original, The Secret. If you read The Secret, I think that was very much heavily based on this book, the Napoleon Hill. What is his book, the original one? Think and Grow Rich is the original full version of the book, and so this is The Little Book of Success, which is the one I read. So yeah, I think The Secret is very much focused on the original book of this one, Think and Grow Rich, because they're very similar and gives you new ways to think about things and yourself, and if you want to succeed, what you should and shouldn't be doing within yourself, not so much work-wise. It's changing a mindset. So I do really recommend it if you would like to change your mindset, if you want to see yourself doing different things, or you have a goal you want to achieve somewhere. Yeah, I do recommend it for that reason. But I only give it 3 stars, like I said, because of the gender stereotyping, and because I'd already read the original version of the book, I didn't think this one was really adding anything new to me. But yeah, that makes sense. And then the 5th book I read, I really need to read some fiction. So the final book I read in the month of July is another mindfulness book. Goodness me. Again, I listened to it. It's called Mindfulness for Mums by Izzy Judd. It is the simple ways to help you and your family feel calm, connected and content. I have to say though, I do recommend this book. I'm a tough crowd. I gave it 3 stars, but the first half of this book I really recommend, because this is where, if you are a mum or a dad and you have little kids and you need to find ways to find moments of calm, I do recommend the first half of this book, because this book, she will go through tools that she uses at home, she says, to help her children be calmer, be more content, I suppose, and be happier. So one tool I got from this book, which I've shared on my Instagram and my TikTok, is my son at the minute, I think it's because there's a big change is happening in September. He's starting school, and so the minute he's going into nursery quite sad, which is so unlike him. He's usually bounces in there, he's thrilled, but in the minute he's quite unhappy going in. So one of the tools from this book is to do I've done research since reading the book, but she calls it something different, but online it's called a hug button. I actually have one on now, as you can see, a heart on my wrist. So the idea of it is, we don't fully commit to this at home here, but the idea of it is you both have a heart on your wrist or somewhere else on your body, and so then when you walk to school you hold hands, and so you're charging up the heart of love, and then once your little one goes into school, nursery, wherever they're going, if they start to feel nervous or sad, they can just press the heart on their wrist, and then the pressing will then send a hug to me as well. So I can then I can also press it and send him a hug as well. So it has worked for us quite a lot, to be fair. My son, who's like I say 3, has really enjoying drawing like every day. I'm like, can I have a heart and a square today? So me and his dad will have like little illustrations on our wrists for him, and it has been working. I do really so I'm thankful for the book for that tip. There are also a few other tips like mindfulness corners, breathing when you're angry, which we have sort of put into effect. To the first half of this book, it has been quite insightful, and there's a few other things in there as well which I've written down to use in the future. But yes, I do really recommend the first half of this book. The reason why I keep saying the first half of the book is because the second half of the book I feel just sort of went into what was I felt like it went into like a Google research, shoving ideas into a book, not actually things you do at home thing. Does that make any sense? I don't know if that made any sense at all. I just feel like it was just so generic. That's really what I'm sort of saying. It was sort, it was so and I don't know Izzy Judd personally, but she went through versions of things called chakras, and I'm not an expert in chakras. I think it's a Buddhist terminology. Seven chakras, and it's just each one is based on a different part of your body, and which knows. And so she went through and she listed all the chakras in your body and how you can be in tune with each chakra. And so don't get me wrong, it's something I may look into and just see what the deal is with them, but it just seems a bit odd because I don't think she uses the chakras, basically. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think she is like someone who actually practices what she preaches. I think that she's been told to add like chakras into a book because it's good for mindfulness for mums, and has done. And then it's sort of, very generic, sort of when you have a newborn baby, a checklist for like if you have a newborn baby, and how to self-care for you, and how you should be better for self-care for yourself to make sure you're taking care of you. It just seemed too generic, and it was sort of stuff I'd all heard before. And I'm all for learning how to help regulate mine and my children's emotions and keep mindfulness within the family, but it just felt sort of like I've run out of things to say, and now I'm just going to start talking about things that you may or may not know, or things that aren't completely relevant, or it just didn't feel genuine. That's what I'm looking for, genuine. That's why I keep saying the first half of the book, and that's why I could only give it 3 stars, because the first half was great. The second half was, I skipped through a couple of chapters because I thought, why are we talking about this now? Like, why are we talking about newborn babies now? Because you've already spoken to me for the first half of the book, talking about how I meant to help calm my, obviously toddler down, and now we're talking about newborn babies. Like, that doesn't make sense. You don't calm newborn babies down. I'm not going to read all this book before I have a kid, because I need it for my toddler. I don't need it for new. Anyway, I'll stop rambling about the book. It just wasn't my favourite, okay? But I do recommend the first half of the book. Unfortunately, she hasn't got anything online. I did look to see if there's like a blog or something online she had done, which sort of highlighted those first few things, but unfortunately not. If you can get it from a library, I recommend it. And that is the other 5 books I've read this month. I'm very happy with myself for completing 5 books. It has been my goal, I think, since like January or maybe February, to read 5 books. So the fact I've done that, I'm thrilled. Finally, I've managed to get there. But we are now in the month of August. I should hopefully finish, like I say, my 2 books. Maybe I did set myself a goal to finish 2 books last week and only finished the 1. So maybe this week I could try and finish my paperback book that I'm currently reading, because it is sat on my nightstand being ignored. What has been your favourite book that you have read so far this year? Did you get many books read in July? What was your favourite one there? Please let me know. I'm always looking for more inspiration to add to my constant growing wish list of books. And yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do not forget to subscribe if you like this type of content. I'm also over on Instagram and TikTok as well if you wanted to check me out over there. And I will see you in my next one. Goodbye.